Hello boys and girls, today we're going to work with clay. So you're going to get a slab of clay. If it's dry, squirt it once with a spray bottle. You don't need to spray it more than once because then it's going to get too wet and it's not going to work very well. Now, make sure you are keeping your clay on the canvas. So if your canvas doesn't completely cover your table, make sure that you're keeping that piece of clay on the canvas so that you can reach it. Now you are going to get a ball of clay. You can use your hand to flatten it a little, or a little piece of clay, not necessarily a ball. And then you can use a rolling pin to roll it out. So here I'm just going to use my hand, my palm, to flatten this out a little, and I'm rolling the rolling pin over it. Now a trick to make it easier for you to roll it out is to flip it over and roll the other side some more. I'm going to spray this once with the bottle, and then I'm going to keep rolling. If you spray this too much when you're rolling it out, it's going to stick to the rolling pin and you're going to have to start over because it's probably going to have chunks of it that it's going to leave on the rolling pin, and you're going to be missing chunks of clay. So we'll flip it over and roll it some more. You don't need to make this really thin, but you want to make it like maybe the width of one of your clay tools, or like 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to flip this over again. If the clay starts cracking, like if you look at the edges here, it's starting to crack a little. So that means it's starting to dry out, so I'm just going to spritz it again once so that the clay can continue absorbing that water. Clay does start drying out. And if it's starting to crack like that, then that means it's drying out and you need to spray it a little. Okay, now, here we go. I am going to use some of my clay tools to create a pizza slice. So first I'm going to cut this into the shape of a pizza slice, which is a triangle shape. Actually, I think I'm going to find another one of my tools that's a little better suited to cut. So I mean, you could have the ones where they're flat here on the half, or you could have one of them where they have the sharp ribs here. It's up to you what you think works the best. Maybe this tool would be the best because that's more for carving. So I'm just going to go with the one I originally had. If you are afraid to make the mark, you can draw lightly in here to figure out the shape of your pizza slice. Like maybe that's too skinny. I want to make it a little thicker. I'm going to use some slip. This is slip, which is water and clay. And I'm just going to use the slip to cover up those marks that I just made in the clay. So I'm going to rub over it. Okay, now I'm going to redraw my pizza lines to the way that I want them. Okay, so there's my slice of pizza. I have it the way I want it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to now press harder and use this clay tool to cut all the way through the clay. Do not throw out these scraps. You can use them. So I'm going to save these scraps for pieces that I'm going to make. And here now is my slice of clay, or my pizza slice. I'm just going to take some of the slip on my finger and use it to smooth some of those rougher edges. And then I'm going to pick up this, flip it over, put it in my hand. Don't worry if your hands are getting dirty. We'll wash our hands then. And you can use a pencil or a clay tool that has more of the point like this and just write your initials on the back. This is so that when it's dried out and been fired, which we'll talk about, your name will be written on there. So now it's time to make your pizza slice into a piece of pizza. So I could add some crust up here. So maybe I'll take another piece of clay. That one's not long enough. So like this here for my crust. I'm going to measure out how long it should be. So I'm going to use this clay tool here. Actually, I'm going to pull that up a little. So erase that. Mark it here and here. And I'm going to make it into a pizza crust. So pizza crusts are like a little bumpy, so I'm going to use my fingers and my slip to shape this or smooth it into the way I want it. You could also use the tool to cut into the pizza crust the way that you want it. It's up to you. I'm gonna make it a little bumpy, have ridges, because pizza crust isn't perfectly smooth. Okay, it fits on there, so what I'm going to do, this is called slipping and scoring, which is one of the most important steps of doing when you are using clay. And slip and score, or score and slip, is score when you're marking it or scoring it. It's what it's called. So I'm going to go crisscross, and I'm going to score the piece that I'm attaching it to. So we're scoring right now. So marking it up, making these grooves into the clay pieces that we want to attach together. It is really important that you do this step, because if you don't do this, your piece will fall off in the kiln when it gets fired or heated up. So then I'm going to take my slip and I'm going to lightly smooth it over here. You don't want to make those grooves disappear like I showed you before. You just want the slip to go into those grooves, because it's going to act like the glue of paper, but this is the glue of clay, not for paper. So I have slip filled in them, and what I'm going to do is now I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to attach my crust on here, and I'm going to press down on it a little. Now if my crust is too long, I'm going to cut it to make it a little shorter so it fits. Maybe I need a better tool than that. There we go. And I'm just going to smooth down here because there's a lot of slip there, and smooth over any cracks. So there is my pizza crust. Now if I want to clear this out a little bit better, I can use this tool to scrape some of the slip off so that it's more of a straight, smooth line. Okay, now my pizza isn't plain. I'm going to add some things that I like to eat on it. So maybe I want to add some peppers. Maybe I want to add some mushrooms. Maybe I want to add some pepperoni. So what I'm going to do with my extra clay that I cut off of my pizza, I am going to carve those into them. I'm going to draw them first, and then I am going to slip and score and attach it. So let me show you. So let's make some pepperonis. I'm going to find which tool would be nice to draw with. Let's do this one because it's like the pencil. Just going to draw a bunch of pepperonis. Now my pepperonis are a little small, so I'm going to use some slip just to get a little moist, and I'm going to press them together to make them a little bigger. Okay, I have my pepperonis the shape that I want them to be, so I am going to score all of my pepperonis. So making those grooves into them. Like I said, this is very important, because if you do not do this, then it will not stick together. Now I'm going to slip, and I got to figure out where I'm going to put them. Now, I might want to add maybe some cheese on here, so I can carve details into my pizza for like my cheese if I would like. Let's say the buzzer has gone off and class time is over and I need to clean up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my tools down. Any extra clay that I have, I'm going to put in a pile, and you will give that to me so that I can recycle it and reuse it for another class. And you are going to take a bag with a number on it. You were assigned your number. And what you're going to do, if you are done or not done, it's still going to go in this bag. You're going to carefully put it in the bag. And if you are done, you are going to leave the bag mostly shut, but you want it to breathe a little so it can start drying out. If you are not done, you need to seal this bag shut tight so no air at all is getting in that bag. If there is air getting in that bag because you haven't sealed it shut, it's going to start drying out, which then means that you cannot work with the clay anymore because it's going to be brittle and it's going to fall apart, and you can't slip and score and piece things together when it is drying out. So, here are the basics. I want to see what you guys can create. Get really creative. Have fun with your pizza. Enjoy it, boys and girls.